Donald Trump, he's been elected as the new president of America.
I wonder if that means crypto will win.
Spiked the punch bowl with a lot of hopium.
The Trump pump, it is that, man.
The Trumpadelic pumpamentals.
Watch it pump, baby, we just buy and get rich.
The problem with buying at the top, right? You never know what's going to happen next. If this bubble can keep increasing because of the anticipation that eventually Donald is going to buy everybody's crypto at $1 zillion a pop, you know, it could mean that everybody's going to want to pile in here. Even those skeptics out there, who knows, maybe guys like Peter Schiff and Nouriel Roubini, those guys are going to look at this and say it's worth it. Hello everybody, welcome to the Centbee Show. I'm your host Lorien and Gamaroff, and my co-host is Kage, political pundit, Ntshingila. KG, welcome to the show.
So, Miss G.
Hey, how's it, man?
Good on yourself, man.
Yes, yeah, good. We are talking about politics today.
Yeah, we're politicking today.
Politicking, I mean, this is not a topic that we care for much or are experts really in.
Yeah.
But when politics touches on the land of crypto and the land of Bitcoin, we want to weigh in.
Let's do it!
Definitely. That's like a call for us to actually step in, Miss G.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the biggest politician, the most famous, the most powerful politician, Donald Trump, he's been elected as president of the United States 2024. What's so important is that he made a lot of promises to the crypto community.
That contributed to his victory.
Yeah,
Because I think the crypto bros, it's a large community.
it is a large community.
We can't undermine the fact that there's a lot of people actually who are vouching for crypto.
That's right, and
Yeah.
not just people, the common person in the street, but big CEOs of massive investment companies, BlackRock,
Michael Saylor,
MicroStrategy.
Yeah.
These guys are betting the farm on crypto, and Donald Trump is bringing home the bacon.
Yeah, I'm sure like they were like super excited, especially crypto holders. With all these promises, we can see it's raining crypto already.
Yes, it is raining crypto. So we are talking about Donald Trump just winning the United States election, extremely important election, it seems, especially if you are into crypto, because Donald Trump made very important promises about crypto, and specifically Bitcoin BTC.
Yeah.
Now, of course, all these promises around Bitcoin, they are not about Bitcoin SV, the original protocol, Satoshi's Bitcoin, but about the digital gold that so many people are enamored with these days.
Fool's gold. Speculators too.
So we want to dive into now, what does it mean? Because we have actually touched on this campaign of Donald Trump's. You know, he went to the Bitcoin Nashville 2024 conference, a massive conference.
It was a major one. It gave even a person like Donald Trump the platform to actually sell himself and make all these promises. And it seems like it contributed to his victory, like I was saying.
Certainly seems like it. I mean, there were thousands of people at that conference, and of course there are many people in the United States who are investing in crypto, whether it's through the ETFs or whether it's just through buying and hodling Bitcoin and other cryptos, BTC. And so, of course, Donald Trump didn't waste time. He saw an opportunity there. And obviously the ironic thing was that he wasn't very into Bitcoin before the election.
That's the crazy part, Mr. G, because the cool part about the internet is that it never forgets. So we have like plenty trail of history of Trump actually voicing out like he's opposing crypto. With all of this Nashville conference and stuff, it took a different turn.
Yeah, he did. He saw a segment of the population that he could easily bribe. He's promised to buy Bitcoin and make crypto regulations easy for crypto bros. And of course, if we just look at the charts and we look at the Bitcoin BTC chart right now, it's got the Trump pump.
The Trump pump. It is that, man.
The Trumpadelic pumpamentals.
Because I think he's the most successful pump at this point.
Yes, King Pumper.
I mean, it's the price is on 80 grand or something?
It's blown past 80 grand at $80,000 of BTC.
That's insane.
He's got 4 years to fulfill this promise.
Yeah.
And so for the next 4 years, even if he doesn't deliver right away, if he doesn't start buying the Bitcoin for the reserve, he's got 4 years of promising.
Yeah.
And that could mean that for the next 4 years, BTC just rides that hype wave.
I like how you put it, because it is about that. It's just promises.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be any form of delivery to those promises.
We'll see. I mean, he was president before and he promised a lot of stuff then, and he didn't really deliver on most of those those promises, and this is just the nature of politics, right?
Yep.
You want to get into power. By the time you get there, things can change. And of course, remember, he's a president, but he's not this king. It's not that he can decide something and then it just happens. They've got a Congress, they've got to get through a lot of different people and different factions. And so even though he's all optimistic and pumped up about this, it could mean that it goes nowhere. But of course, no one's going to know that until the last day of his presidency.
Yeah, that's actually what they do. They just promise until the end of term. When we look back, there's nothing that's delivered. Yeah.
We'll see. What we're going to discuss now are those promises. Donald Trump made a whole bunch of these promises about Bitcoin and BTC and crypto. We want to just touch on some of those promises. Now, we have actually been through this before. If you go and watch episode 42, we covered the Bitcoin Nashville conference, and we specifically covered the talk that Donald Trump gave with all these promises that we're mentioning now. And so go back and watch that episode if you want to just see our take prior to Donald Trump getting elected. Campaignamentals. And so we're going to have the Trumpadelic campaignamentals, pumpamentals. Go back and watch that show and just check what we spoke about. But now that it's actually happened, we want to just go and revisit those promises and just see how likely is it that some of this can happen, and also how is he going to action these promises. Number one, I mean, we can get right into it.
Straight up.
Is he's promised to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. He wants to accumulate and have a stockpile of BTC.
Just like gold.
They're thinking of having the same kind of proportion of gold to Bitcoin. And specifically, they say that they want to buy 1 million BTC.
That's quite
over
a lot,
the next 5
Mr.
years.
G. That's quite a lot, because if we're looking at the entirety of the distributed Bitcoins, 21 million.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, if you have 1 million of that, out of the 21 million, that's still quite a lot.
The United States will be the biggest holder of BTC because, of course, there are the big holders like MicroStrategy, there's BlackRock, but none of them hold 1 million, apart from Satoshi Nakamoto himself. So this is a huge amount of BTC.
It's huge.
And the question is, how is he going to do that? Where is he going to get the money to be able to buy that a number of Bitcoins?
Yeah, because I wanted to understand, Mr. G. I mean, with all these promises, it's like, okay, cool, we hear you, but money needs to come from somewhere to purchase all this 1 million BTC.
Yes.
But how is it? Where is the money going to actually come up?
That's right. So there is now a whole complicated structure and a complicated process that they're going to use to be able to buy this BTC. They don't want to raise taxes, of course, or create inflation to be able to purchase these BTC tokens. And so the question is, where are they going to get the money for that? They've created a bill. Cynthia Loomis,
Senator.
She created this Bitcoin bill, BITCOIN, and it stands for the Boosting Innovation, Technology and Competitiveness Through Optimized Investment Nationwide. I mean,
that's corny as hell.
They had to figure out how to spell Bitcoin, right?
That is so funny, actually.
Anyway, so this bill, it has a number of points in it, how they're going to be funding the Bitcoin and all that. And so this is now on the table. Before it was just a promise, and now we're going to see Cynthia Loomis pushing this bill through. Of course, it still remains to be seen if it will be pushed through. But in this bill, it explains a couple things. First of all, it says that they're going to establish this Bitcoin reserve. Then they're going to acquire 1 million Bitcoins. And in the bill, it explains how they're going to fund these purchases. So let's have a quick look at this. This is the interesting part, because as we said, they're not going to be inflating, they're not going to be raising taxes, and so where are they going to get the money to pay for all this Bitcoin?
That's the big question.
One of the ways that they are doing it is there's this idea of revaluing gold certificates. There were a number of gold certificates issued to the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank in America, by the United States Treasury, the government Treasury. And so this was a long time ago. This was in the 30s or something. And so what happened was the gold was handed over to the US Treasury, and that gold had a valuation of about $42 an ounce.
Yeah.
And then gold certificates were issued to the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
And so now the Federal Reserve is sitting with a whole lot of these gold certificates, valued at $42 per ounce.
And that was then. That was the price then.
That was the price then, and that price hasn't changed. And of course, now when we look at the price of gold, we can see that it's over $2,600.
Yeah.
And so what they have said is that, well, what we can do is we can revalue those gold certificates.
Yeah.
We can set the price for those certificates at a more relevant value, closer to the value that it is now, 2,600, which means now that there is all this extra funding capacity at the Federal Reserve.
Some extra cash.
So let's take the difference and go and use that to purchase all these Bitcoins.
Jeez.
And so that's one of the mechanisms that they have thought of.
At least taxpayers' money won't be used to buy all this Bitcoin. So this sounds like a doable idea.
It certainly does. It sounds like you're getting something for nothing, right?
Definitely.
All you're doing is you're just adjusting these certificates to be more like what the price is today. It seems like this is something that should have been done a long time ago. That's what they are proposing. Then there's another way that they are thinking of funding this as well, also relating to the Federal Reserve. And if we just look at that one, it says that they're going to utilize the Federal Reserve earnings. What the Federal Reserve does is it earns income, but it's not supposed to be a for-profit organization. And so any profits that the Federal Reserve make, they then send that back to the US Treasury to be used. Now there is this amount of money that is being sent from the Federal Reserve to the United States Treasury, and they're saying, let's just use some of that, a portion of that, to be able to purchase these Bitcoins. So again, it's not more money that's needing to be created or taxed. It's just allocating existing money that's coming from the Federal Reserve for its profits earned on its normal day-to-day operations, and that's going to be allocated to purchase Bitcoin. And so that's the second way that they're going to fund this million Bitcoins. And then finally, the other mechanism, the third way that they are thinking of doing this, is by using some of these surplus funds that the Federal Reserve retains as a kind of safety cushion. The Federal Reserve has a couple $1 billion that they hang on to in case they need it for whatever reason, and I think it's about $6 billion. And what they're suggesting is that they can reduce that financial cushion down to $2 billion, and then with the rest of the money they can go and purchase the Bitcoin.
Jeez.
So there we have the mechanism that they are thinking of funding this million Bitcoins. Very importantly, it's not about raising taxes or anything like that, or even allocating part of the budget into Bitcoin. All they want to do is they want to do some financial engineering. They want to do some revaluation of gold certificates, and then use that money, and then also use any surpluses and any profits from the Federal Reserve. So it sounds like a win.
It sounds like also sort of like a legitimate way to cook your books. All of a sudden there's this extra money that we can use for all of this, but we all know that that's not as easy as they put it.
That's the nature of central banking, probably, you can say. It's just one big cookbook.
Straight up, eh?
Anyway, that's the funding mechanism. And so people out there can feel confident, according to the United States government, that if they go and purchase all these Bitcoins, it's not going to affect the taxpayer. All it's going to do is it means that the United States suddenly has all this money and they can go and purchase this Bitcoin. And of course, what are they going to be using it for? They want to have the strategic reserve. They want to use it to bring down the debt, when Bitcoin, as it goes to the moon. And of course, we're seeing it mooning right now with all the hopium.
The pumping and all of that.
That's right. Donald Trump has spiked the punch bowl with a lot of hopium.
It really has.
And of course, people are trading. It almost seems that it would be crazy not to take a punt on it at this point.
I mean, it's pumping, Mr. G. Why not?
That's the problem with buying at the top, right? You never know what's going to happen next. And I think this kind of pump is just reminiscent of all the other pumps that have happened over the history of BTC.
That brings us also to the promises that he made regarding regulation.
Yes.
And he's promising to tone down all the focus on regulation, whether it's AML and all of that.
Yes. Now, this is also another part of the promises, is that he wants to be softer on regulation. And of course, existing senators, Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren, and others have said they need to start clamping down on crypto. Not only is it a threat potentially to the financial system, if people start using BTC as money, not that they would or could, given the high fees and the slow processing times.
It's impossible.
But if people start using BTC and they stop using the dollar, there's a lot of people in the United States who think, this can have a negative impact on the financial system.
Yeah.
And so Senator Warren and others have tried to start clamping down on crypto. Not only do they think of the financial stability, but they also think about, as you said, AML, anti-money laundering. They see that there's an opportunity for people to use BTC to launder money or to fund terrorists. And so regulators in America are aware of this, and they're trying to come up with ways of regulating the industry. So Senator Warren is concerned about this, as well as other senators, and they want to try and clamp down on the potential for money laundering and terrorist financing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's also the volatility aspect.
Definitely.
A lot of people are buying BTC thinking it's an investment. And of course, this is how exchanges are selling it. People don't talk about speculation when it comes to BTC. They talk about investing.
Investments, yeah.
And so when it comes to investments, there's a sort of expectation that you're not putting it all on black on a roulette table or throwing the dice.
Nah.
It's supposed to be something a little bit more sensible than just
Gambling.
a gamble. And so given the volatility, of course, Donald Trump's going to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
If he's going to be buying 1 million Bitcoins, is he confident that 1 million Bitcoins is going to be worth the same price that he paid for it? And so in terms of the regulations, Senator Warren and others are looking at trying to protect consumers against this volatility.
Yeah.
If you're selling an investment and you just go and rip people off, there's usually repercussions.
Yeah, rightfully so.
If you are going to be investing in things, you're going to have to do your homework, right?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
But people like Senator Warren, they like to take care of people.
Senator Warren, like you're saying, I see her concerns. It's more about protecting the consumer and also just keeping it in check, in regulation check.
Yeah, but you got to remember that we don't want a society where we're mollycoddled. We still want to make the decisions for ourselves.
Yeah.
This is that sort of left socialist kind of thinking
Yeah,
of trying to
yeah.
protect people from themselves.
True.
And Senator Warren is very much like that. She's
yeah.
Very much on the left side of politics, where they want government to look after you and take care of you and control you.
Yeah.
And so she's trying to say, look, we need to clamp down on things and we need to overregulate and we need to control things so that people are protected. And of course, Donald Trump being on the right side of things, he's more about freedom. If you want to make your own mistakes, go for it. And also that speaks to the other thing that he's trying to push, which is that idea of self-custody.
Yeah.
At the moment, if you want to keep your BTC, you have to have a level of technical kind of competency to be able to keep your crypto by yourself.
As Centbee, we have a product that simplifies the usage of BSV. We're not trying to bombard the user with all this tech and figure it out type of mindset.
The idea of self-custody also means that you don't need to have a third-party service that you are using your Bitcoin through. If you have your Bitcoin on Centbee, we need to do certain checks.
Yeah.
We need to check your ID.
KYC.
We need to do all this KYC stuff. And then also we put limits in place.
Definitely.
There's so much that you can purchase per day on Centbee, or so much you can send to bank accounts and that. We've got very tight controls around how you can use your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is promising that people can self-custody and not have to use a third party that is going to put these kinds of restrictions in place.
Yeah.
So if you want to send $1 billion worth of BTC to whomever you like without going through a third party, that's what he wants to protect. And so you can see how this is going to open up problems in terms of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing.
Already has, Mr. G. I mean, as long as you have a bag full of stash, you cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the promises, is to try and reduce the pressures, the regulatory pressures from the previous administration.
Yeah.
And to make it easier for people to be able to hold and use their BTC without any kind of controls.
Yeah. With Senator Warren, she states, the concerns about the environment. And then we have Trump, who actually throws that out the window because of his promises.
Trump wants to make America a Bitcoin mining superpower.
Yeah.
And Senator Warren saying that there's a big environmental issue here.
Yeah.
Bitcoin mining is extremely energy intensive and of course has a big carbon footprint.
I think we should rephrase that, Mr. G.
Yes.
BTC mining.
Yes, exactly. Of course, BTC does have enormous electricity consumption.
It's crazy.
It definitely doesn't justify the number of transactions being processed.
Yeah.
And this is a very important difference between BSV and BTC, because BTC has a limit on the number of transactions that they can process per second.
It's what, 7?
You're looking at around 7 transactions per second. And of course, to mine Bitcoin, it's gigawatts.
Country worth of power.
Yes, country's worth of power. When you look at the energy efficiency with BTC, you realize it's terrible.
It is.
And yet, the very important thing to note here is that Bitcoin mining, in the way Satoshi designed Bitcoin, is that Bitcoin mining is incredibly energy efficient. In other words, the cost to mine a single transaction in BSV or Bitcoin SV is extremely low.
Super low.
Because the transaction throughput is millions of transactions per second,
it's
not
justified.
Just 7.
Yeah.
So the energy efficiency is, you can't even compare them. You can see how different they are. So when it comes to BTC, I agree. BTC is an environmental concern because it's consuming far more electricity than it justifies the value of those transactions that are moving across.
Yeah.
But whereas BSV is a very low energy consumption. But Trump's not concerned about that. He wants the United States to be a Bitcoin mining superpower, where all the Bitcoin that's created, earned in the mining process is retained in the United States to supplement the Bitcoin reserve.
With 7 transactions per second, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's not justifiable.
No.
So yeah, Ms. G, we're talking about implementing the proof of reserve audits now. I think that is also an issue. I mean, if you talk about Tether, for instance, it's easy to just put up a number and they claim that this is how much you have in reserves, but you know, there has to be proof.
Yes, and that's one of the next things that has been promised in this Bitcoin bill, is that they are going to be able to have audits that can prove the availability or the ownership of that Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Tether.
Yeah.
And Tether famously is a USD stablecoin.
Yeah.
And up to date has never been especially transparent with their reserves. The idea of Tether is that they have a 1-to-1 connection between every USD tether that they issue and USD in the bank.
The dollar,
That's how Tether is supposed to work. Every tether is supposed to be backed by a US dollar. But to date, there's never been a proper third-party audit to prove that Tether actually does have the backing for every one of those tethers that have been created. And when we look at the market cap, it's what, 130-something billion dollars?
Yeah.
This idea of proof of reserves is very important. You know, even exchanges need to have proof of reserves.
Definitely.
If you've deposited your Bitcoin or your crypto into an exchange, you want to make sure that that exchange is not now running off with it or doing stuff with it. You want to be able to have them prove that they hold the Bitcoin that has been deposited. So this is a very important thing.
It's very important, yeah.
Now, of course, it's quite easy to point to an address and say, that's my Bitcoin address and there's all my Bitcoin there. But you have to be able to prove it, that you own that and you have access to it and it's not been promised to anybody else. You have to be able to prove that it hasn't been encumbered. In other words, it doesn't belong to somebody else, or it's not being used for something else, for another purpose.
Yeah.
And so this proof of reserves is very important, where you get a third party, some unbiased, trusted auditor, you know, like a Big Four auditor, KPMG or Deloitte, and they go in and they can then create an audit and they can prove that yes, these coins are being held and they belong to the US government. And so to make everybody feel that the BTC that the US government has is in reserve and is being held, is going to be very important for them to be able to prove that with this proof of reserves. And so that's part of the Bitcoin bill, is to actually have that proof so that the public can feel confident that the United States government is in fact holding that BTC. It's the people's Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, the people want to know that their Bitcoin is sitting there and it's not just, you know, run off like all these other crypto scams that have happened in the past.
But it's all fluff, man. When it comes to like transparency and the government, that never goes hand in hand.
Yeah, Trump is promising. Promises.
It's just a promise, One of the promises is to tone down the regulation.
Yes.
To actually invite crypto startups actually to America because it's a healthy playground for them.
It speaks to the softening on the regulatory stance, trying to reduce the burden of regulations on crypto companies. Trump is wanting to stimulate, or at least he's promising to stimulate the crypto industry, make America a crypto superpower. There have been a lot of roadblocks and speed bumps along the way.
Yeah.
So he wants to stimulate crypto companies, startups, entrepreneurs who want to come and build Bitcoin businesses. The Securities Exchange Commission in America, chaired by by Gary Gensler.
Yeah.
He's sort of been the crypto nemesis
Yeah.
in United States. He's been bringing a lot of cases and trying to shut down companies and really make it difficult for crypto companies to function in America. And so he's become the kind of whipping boy of crypto. When Donald Trump made that announcement in the Crypto Nashville conference, he said he's going to fire Gary Gensler.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman. I didn't know he was that unpopular. Well, I didn't know he was that unpopular. Let me say it again. On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler. Whoa.
You got the crowd cheering there about
Yes.
firing him.
That's right. People in crypto in America, they can't stand Gary. They think that Gary is the reason why Bitcoin is being suppressed and just not breaking free.
It's funny that they give just that one man so much power.
I mean, he's the head of an important agency, the
Yeah.
Securities Exchange Commission. I mean, that regulates securities. And of course, the fight that's been going on is, is crypto security? Is this crypto or that crypto security? He's been giving companies like Coinbase a hard time because Coinbase have been trying to offer all sorts of products around crypto, and Gary Gensler believes that those are illegal. They skirt around the securities laws and all
Yeah.
that sort of thing. His head is on the chopping block now. Trump has promised to fire the guy. Now, of course, it's not that easy to fire him. I'm sure there's going to have to be some kind of reason, a justifiable cause.
Or a cause, yeah. He's not the only one who makes decisions. I think even if he were to be fired, someone who will be stepping into his shoes will have to continue with the mandate.
That's right. That's their mandate, is to ensure that securities laws are not thwarted.
Yeah.
And so anybody who comes in is probably going to have to follow the same rules and implement the same practices.
Yeah.
So yes, it's not down to a single man,
No.
but he has become the poster child for this anti-crypto stance. Even if Gary Gensler doesn't survive, it doesn't seem likely that now the rules are going to change, the laws are going to change. It might make a lot of crypto bros happy to see the last of Gary Gensler, since he's been a thorn in their side for so long.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like much will change.
It's just also that misdirected anger. So it's easy for them to want to vilify someone, who's doing their job. But Gary's all about regulation. He's not saying he's anti-crypto.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, Ms. G, he made a huge promise. In the first 100 days, he's going to appoint a Bitcoin and Crypto Advisory Council.
Yeah.
With industry experts and stuff. Probably Michael Saylor's there.
Yeah. Exactly. Michael Saylor would love it.
Yeah.
Yes. So he says that within 100 days of being inaugurated, he's going to create this advisory council, this crypto advisory council.
Yeah.
And the idea there is to get industry experts, people who understand BTC and understand crypto, for them to help design and plan out some kind of regulatory framework that's going to make it easier for crypto companies, easier for crypto users to be able to use crypto, and for there to be these transparent guidelines that can help the industry and guide it along and make sure that there's no problems that creep in. You've got a lot of these crypto experts now who are obviously very vested in crypto.
Experts.
And if you just think about most of crypto today, when it comes to their opinions on what crypto is, it's all about decentralization and anti-government and all that. So it's interesting that he is now going to try and invite these people into the government to create these guidelines that at the end of the day are going to be trying to limit government control over crypto.
Yeah.
The hope is that at least, though, that the regulations are informed and make sense. Obviously, if you get a bunch of people who don't understand crypto and they create all these regulations, there could all be all sorts of hindrances and things they put in place.
Yeah.
But hopefully with the right enlightened souls and the enlightened minds, they'll be able to create good and productive crypto regulations. And I just heard now that one of the people that are going to be On that advisory board is Charles Hoskinson. He's the guy who developed Cardano, which is a blockchain. Yeah, this overcomplicated, overpromised and underdelivered blockchain network.
It's quite funny, Ms. G. They always put these pundits on a pedestal. It's not like they understand the actual nature of what Bitcoin was supposed to be.
Charles doesn't care about what Bitcoin was supposed to be.
He's
trying to create a competitor and he thinks it's better than Bitcoin. He's been sort of riding on this overpromise, too much jargon, too much technical complexity bandwagon. But of course, he's very prominent and Donald Trump has identified him as a potential expert who can help America on this crypto journey.
That's a red flag for me.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the idea of the advisory council. But you can see now that Trump, at least in terms of promising how he's going to make America great again by allowing people to invest in and buy and use Bitcoin, BTC in a very limited, light regulatory touch kind of way. This has excited crypto bros and they're loving every minute of it. But of course, he hasn't become president yet. And we definitely need to see how those first 100 days are going to pan out. But, either way, it's certainly a big pump opportunity for crypto.
It is, Mr. G. I mean, since he got elected, we've seen the pump. So definitely in the next coming weeks or months, we're going to see some crazy numbers.
I mean, look, who knows? What's very important about crypto is that, yes, it can pump, but it can also dump pretty hard. And in investing, they always talk about buying the rumor and selling the fact. I guess the rumor is that Trump is going to be president, in however many days. And once he becomes president, and people have bought up all they can on that rumor, although it's a true rumor, what happens when it becomes fact and he becomes president? Is that green candle still going to keep growing to the moon, or is it going to have severe correction? We don't know.
I think it's going to melt, Mr. G, because we can see that this is all a game for them. It's not realistic in terms of how the prices go up and stuff. It's not real. It's
a game insofar as that there is no need to prove the technology.
Yes.
People talk about Bitcoin as this tech, but tech is supposed to be something that's useful, right?
That funny thing, Mr. G, they're talking about, creating this lucrative environment for startups and stuff, but they never actually talk about the tech.
Yeah, what are these startups going to be doing? Just finding new ways for you to hodl your cryptos and to trade on exchanges.
So yeah, Ms. G, another major promise when we're talking about President of the People, Mr. Trump, he wants to free Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road creator.
Yes.
He's been in prison, it's 11 years already?
That's right, over a decade.
Do you see it as something like happening, like having him released?
This is an important story for people in crypto. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, way back in the early days, people first came to hear about it because there was this underground website that was selling all sorts of contraband, and it was using this anonymous cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. And I remember how much hype there was around it and how much fear there was around it. Wow, people can buy drugs and they can buy fake IDs online using this crypto. What's coming to the world? How are we ever going to save ourselves from all these bad people who are being able to offer all these illegal things online? Who knows, it can even go worse. Maybe one day sell assassination services or something.
Probably.
So famously, the first and most famous dark market website was the Silk Road, and it was helmed and managed and run by this guy whose pseudonym was the Dread Pirate Roberts. Turned out to be this young guy called Ross Ulbricht. He eventually got bust. They found him, the feds got hold of him, and they locked him up, and he was served 2 life sentences for running this website. There was a rumor that he had tried to do some contract killings, but that was never proven in court. But anyway, they threw the book at him. They threw 2 books at him, and this guy's been sitting in jail now for 11 years, Ross Ulbricht, and has become another poster child for crypto. This guy who innocently just wanted to create a website where people could buy things and sell things independent of any of the rules. And he didn't do anything violent. innocent, he didn't kill anybody, and so why is it that he got 2 life sentences for this? And so there's been a lot of campaigning from a lot of people in crypto trying to free Ross, and of course Donald Trump got wind of this, and he saw that it was another selling point for his campaign.
Yeah.
What he'll do is he will free Ross Ulbricht from prison if he is elected.
Trump, for me, he's the world's greatest marketer. He knows how to appeal to the masses. So he knew actually having to mention Ross would put him in good light.
This is what Donald Trump has said he's going to do. It seems like the easiest thing, though, to do, to pardon somebody. That's not the same as buying a Bitcoin reserve or anything like that. So it might be the case that Donald Trump decides to go and free the guy.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people are going to be happy about that. But, of course, there are problems there, too. I think what the government was trying to do there when they threw those books at him was that they wanted to make sure that anybody who was thinking of starting a dark market website would have Ross in their mind and think...
it was just setting an example.
Yeah, setting an example straight up. This idea of having online websites that can sell anything using currencies that can't be traced, although, of course, that's not true. Bitcoin can be traced, even BTC. So it could be that they free him. It might set a bad precedent, because that means others who are interested in starting these online dark market websites might think, if I get bust and I'm going to get 11 years, maybe it's not such a bad thing.
Yeah, but one thing I'm taking out of this, Ms. G, regarding Silk Road is that at least there was a use case for BTC. People were using it to purchase.
That was the point, right?
That was the point.
Cash.
Exactly.
But not for illegal things.
Not for illegal things.
And that's why Satoshi made it traceable.
Yes. But the use case, that was a show and tell.
Right.
Of actually showing people that this is what Bitcoin was meant to do. You can purchase things online, quicker transactions and all of that. But I guess he didn't think about the illegal implications around it.
Who, Ross?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did. Silk Road is protected by Tor.
Onion sites.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But I imagine he's learned his lesson now.
He has.
And look, if you try to kill somebody, then of course that's attempted murder.
It's different.
And you've got to pay the price for that.
Yeah.
The problem is that none of that was proven.
As an innovator, if you're creating something that facilitates illicit activity, you are somehow responsible.
Yes.
That's the unfortunate part, because he may not have ordered any hits or stuff, but he created a platform that could encourage such activity.
That's right. And if you think about these privacy coins, they should be called anonymity coins, but privacy coins like Monero or Zcash, those developers are specifically creating a tool for people to be able to hide their transactions and to break traceability of transactions. Ross Ulbricht, he didn't do any drug dealing himself, but he created a platform and he got nailed. Now, these guys who are pushing Monero, pushing Zcash, those guys are also creating a platform. And those platforms can be used, and probably almost exclusively are being used for illegal activities. So just as Ross was nailed for creating a platform, these guys who are pushing these privacy coins, they better watch out.
They're even worse, because, for them, it's quite clear that they're pushing being untraceable.
That's what they keep going on about, is breaking traceability, making it anonymous. They call it privacy because privacy is a good word. We all want to be private. We all have a right to be private. But we don't have a right to be anonymous, especially when it comes to financial transactions.
Definitely,
the famous story of the ring of Gyges, which is this story about this guy who found this ring. And he could become invisible. And it just turns out when you become invisible and you're not accountable for your actions, you end up doing things that aren't necessarily good and wholesome. This is the problem with these privacy coins, and these guys who are pushing it better watch out. They might end up rooming with Ross.
I think that's where they belong, because their intention is quite clear, Mr. G, is to overlook any form of regulation or rules around money transactions.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. At the end of the day, you can't hide behind crypto. You're going to get bust.
And also because the whole misconception of Bitcoin not being traceable, they found out the hard way.
Yes, exactly. Everybody who's buying stuff on these marketplaces had better watch out. And also things like CoinJoin and CoinShuffle, where you can shuffle your coins around. Look at Tornado Cash and Wasabi Wallet. If you're using those tools, you're painting a target on your back, so you better watch out.
So guys, just to get the target off your back, remember to download the Centbee app. Check it out. Also remember, we're on Rumble, Spotify, also on YouTube. Remember to subscribe, comment, show some love. Mobile money on fire. Yo, Mr. G, talking about the CBDC, we all know that Trump is against that. And probably him and his crypto bros, they are all against CBDC.
Trump says he's against CBDC because he's going to say whatever it takes to get the crypto bros on his side.
You're actually right, because it's actually quite ironic for a politician to say he doesn't want the government-based coin.
Yes, he wants to control things. He wants to, have sovereignty over the financial system. And of course CBDCs have a lot of features, the traceability and other things, being able to stop people from spending it on certain things, having traceability on every single transaction. So even if it's just a tiny transaction, a micro transaction, you buy a box of matches and boom, the US government or whoever knows what you've spent, and they're going to be asking for their tax. That's the issue with CBDCs. A lot of crypto people and a lot of normal people actually can't stand this idea of a CBDC. It sounds totalitarian. It sounds like government overreach. And Donald Trump put his finger on that, and he saw that was a sensitive topic, and he threw that out there, and it seemed to have worked.
It has.
So whether he's going to be able to stop it, again, does he have the power to be able to stop such a thing? It seems unlikely. And out of all the things that he can do, something that probably goes against his interests more than anything. Holding a stockpile of BTC isn't going to affect your life much, especially if you can ride the ups and downs. But stopping a CBDC in the United States, if the Federal Reserve is keen on such a thing, and they are supposed to be this independent organization, I don't know how Donald is going to be able to stop that. Donald Trump is now going to become president. He made a lot of promises, and it remains to be seen of which of those promises he's going to be able to keep. Of course, in the meantime, the whole crypto community is going to be riding that hype, riding that rocket. It can take 4 years for Donald Trump to start doing any of this stuff, and until that time happens, people will be riding on the hope cycle. And so I don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of years in terms of crypto.
I don't know.
But if this bubble can keep increasing because of the anticipation that eventually Donald is going to buy everybody's crypto at $1 zillion a pop, it could mean that everybody's going to want to pile in here, even those skeptics out there. Who knows, maybe guys like Peter Schiff and Nouriel Roubini, those guys are going to look at this and say it's worth it, even though we don't believe in this thing and it's a big mirage and a scam or whatever. The price is going up, and just like you would take a gamble on anything else, why not this one? Of course, when it comes down to it, really, there is no technology, there is no utility,
nothing.
There is nothing there behind BTC. It really is just a big dream.
And what I foresee also, Mr. G, is this bubble just being inflated. The pop is going to be massive, because for the fact that Trump just used the national conference as an opportunity to market, to the Bitcoin bros, but not actually considering, a mere citizen of the country. He only spoke to the bros. Basically, dudes who have BTC stored up somewhere, people who actually have the cash to buy BTC.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
All that's going to help if he starts buying this BTC for his reserve is he's just going to pump the hodlers. Of course, the manipulation now, the market manipulation that's being caused by this, it's now visible.
Yeah, it's super evident now, actually.
Yeah. No, it looks crazy. It's a mug's game. You can profit maybe, who knows how long. But at the end of the day, reality is going to come knocking. And people are going to find that it's really just ashes in their mouths.
Ouch. Thanks for that, Ms. G. Yeah, we're going to be stepping into this week's socials. So our first one comes from Jim. Jim is saying, when's the shop feature coming back?
What has happened over the last few months is that we've had a corporate restructuring. One of our businesses that has been growing is called Minute Money, which is a cross-border remittance service. And so with the restructure, what has happened is that the license exemption that we've been operating under has now moved along with the Minute Money business. And so Centbee is now operating without that license exemption. And so we've had to reapply. And during this process, while the license is being granted, it could take a few more months, we are going to be suspending the shopping feature as well as the remitting feature. So you won't be able to send money to your bank accounts or mobile money accounts during this period. But please hang on there. We are working on getting a new license for Centbee. And as soon as that license is in place, then we'll be able to switch everything on. But in the meantime, what we're doing is we still are working with partners. We've got a few more integrations with some partners around the world, so that you'll be able to, once we reactivate the services, shop at many more retailers and your favorite brands around the world. And of course, we'll cover almost the entire world.
Yep.
But also, very importantly, you'll be able to top up your wallet in several countries. We've got a number of African countries that we're starting off with, and so as soon as we are able to operate again, we're going to be switching that on, and you'll be able to top up your wallet in countries like Ghana and Nigeria and Uganda, Kenya, South Africa, as well as using our credit card integration with another bunch of countries.
Yeah.
So hang in there. We're still here. We're not going anywhere. We're still committed to bringing Bitcoin SV to the world, helping you be able to use it as cash, just like Satoshi intended. We appreciate your patience during this time. Please don't go anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We're just temporarily suspending those services.
We're just working out.
Yeah, we're just working out, but we're still building behind the scenes. We're still growing, and we hope to come back bigger and better than ever.
Straight up. Thanks for that, Jim. Our second one comes from Sangster1. They're saying, thanks for sharing your insights on the Bitcoin standard.
Oh, yes, the Bitcoin standard. That was our last episode, 55.
Yep.
That's the episode where we covered the book by Safedin Amos, and it's called The Bitcoin Standard, and he is trying to show how the Bitcoin BTC can become a new gold standard for the world. And we take apart that book a bit.
Yeah.
Check it out, episode 55.
Thanks for that, Joe. Our third one comes from Michael Shares, and they're saying, I enjoy your content.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We enjoy creating it for you.
Yeah. And also, just remember to also catch us on the live chats on the Fridays if you have anything to ask, because we are promptly there. We're going to respond. So, remember to check us out every Friday. So, our last one comes from NB. NB is saying, keep fighting the good fight, lads.
Yes, we are all Satoshi soldiers here, Kage.
Straight up, Mr. G.
Satoshi soldiers. What we're doing is we're fighting for Satoshi's vision. Bitcoin was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, and he had a vision.
Yeah.
He wanted to bring low-cost digital cash payments to the world in a decentralized way, without having to go through central intermediaries or for organizations to be able to manipulate Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Unfortunately, BTC has deviated away from that vision. It wants to become a controlled system, a centralized system. There's only a few people in control of that system, and it's completely different from what Satoshi envisioned. And so we need Satoshi soldiers to keep fighting for Bitcoin and for Satoshi's vision. Because without us, Satoshi's vision is just going to disappear. It's going to fade away into the night, and nobody's ever going to experience the benefit that his innovation can bring to the world. BTC can help a few people, but Bitcoin SV, Satoshi's Bitcoin, can help the entire world. And we want to see that vision. We want to see it play out. We want to see how this vision can affect the world positively. And not just by making a couple people rich, but by making everybody be able to reduce the costs of their transactions and democratize finance and bring payments, global payments, to every person in the entire world. So you can be in some tiny little country and you can earn income from abroad by offering some kind of service. And so that's what we're here for. We're fighting a fight. We're fighting the war, the crypto wars, the real crypto wars, and we're fighting for Satoshi. Thanks for that comment, and thanks for joining us on this mission.
That was well said, Mr. G. That was dope. Thanks, NB.
Awesome. Thanks, Kage. It was nice to be able to just revisit Donald Trump's victory, his promises to the crypto community about what he's going to do for Bitcoin. Of course, we're skeptical. He's been elected, and the BTC price is pumping accordingly, obviously, because that's how BTC works.
Pumpermentals.
It just pumps on hot air. and there's a lot of hot air out there right now. And so it still remains to be seen. We're going to give Donald a couple months during his presidency to see how these promises play out, but I'm not expecting much.
Did you say a couple of months? I'm giving him the 100 days he promised.
Oh,
okay?
yeah, that's right. Within 100 days, that's true. 100 days from January, we want to see if any of your promises are going to come true.
Yeah.
We obviously are going to be sitting here waiting and checking, and if anything comes up, we're going to let you guys know all about it.
Yeah.
We want to thank you guys for joining us here on the Centbee Show. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope to see you back soon.